Welcome to the Lightskins Podcast. Today's date is April 3rd, 2024. We've got an exciting episode for you guys today, so let's get into the stars of the show. We got Ryan Bevans. Y'all know him as IB.
What's good, guys? Hope you're having a good one. IB here. Excited for another episode of the Lightskins Podcast.
And we got Bryant Valdez.
Yo, what's up? Glad to be here. Thank you for the support, and let's get into it.
All right then, boys, let's get into it. All right, the first topic we have for you guys is the Pelicans. We're gonna get into the Pelicans. They're playing very good lately. Zion's looking amazing. Are they becoming a contender for you guys? We're gonna start this topic off with Bryant.
In my opinion, even though they've been playing really well the past couple weeks, I don't think they're contenders yet, just because they don't have the playoff experience. And then we still don't know the uncertainty of Brandon Ingram's injury. So, you can't really rely on CJ McCollum and, the rest of that team. Even though they're playing great, I feel like they need Ingram to really compete. And even at that extent, I don't think it's going to be enough to even contend for a title. So for me personally, no. Even with the emergence of Zion, they're probably like 2 or 3 years away from really contending from a title, But in my personal opinion, I don't think they're title contenders yet. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, they're not contenders because of a lot of what Bryant said. I agree with the BI injury. We gotta monitor that as we get closer to the middle of April, and I think CJ McCollum as their number 2 option right now will hold them back if that is what they have to go into the postseason with. So yeah, they really need BI back as soon as possible. But with that being said, I think they are threats for sure because of how well they've played, especially on the defensive end and especially Zion. I don't think this is Zion's best statistical output. Given that in the past he's made, I think, 2 All-Star games and he's had a higher PPG, and I don't think this is his career high in PPG, but in terms of impact and on the court presence and eye test, I think this is his best season, and I really hope he makes the All-NBA third team this year because of how well he's played, not just on the offensive end, but I think defensively he's had kind of a bounce back year than compared to what we've seen from him in the NBA. Up to this point on the defensive end, that's always been a negative point for him, but I think he's really taken on the challenge defensively, especially with Willie Green playing him at the 5 a lot more. He's not being exploited out in space, and him playing at the 5 a lot more is allowing the Pelicans to roll out these lineups where they can play Trey Murphy and Herb Jones at the same time, which in the past they haven't been able to do that as much. So I think those factors have helped them defensively, and honestly, if you're a team like OKC, Denver, or Minnesota, I think the Pelicans are a team that you don't want to face in the first round. So I think they're threats. I think you'd rather face a team like the Kings, the Suns, or the Lakers before you face the Pelicans. So I think they are a threatening team that might be able to sneak in 2 games or force it 7 to one of those contending teams, but I don't think they are contenders.
All right, so it seems you guys agree on the first subject or first topic, and I kind of tend to agree with you guys too. I do like the way Zion looks. If we're talking championship contenders, probably not, but I do see them maybe making some noise a little bit, but that's maybe about it.
Could I ask a quick question real quick? Sorry.
Of course, yeah.
Bryant, what do you think is the key thing that you said they're 2 to 3 years away? What do you think they have to do in order to hit that upper echelon in the West?
I don't really think they have to do anything. I feel like they have the talent. I think they all need to be healthy for one season. I don't really think they need to add something because they have basically, when you look at it, they have 3 stars. I mean, I know McCollum's not a star, but he's damn near one. He's a great player. So I don't really think it's about a matter of getting another player. I think it's a matter of them just being all healthy for one season.
Yeah, Honestly, I think they could. I don't think they are only 2 to 3 years away. I think if they could upgrade CJ McCollum, um, he's been good, but I think he's getting older and he's a bit limited given his size and average athleticism. If they could somehow upgrade that point guard position to somebody who is more of a dynamic scorer and playmaker, then I think they could just be 1 year away. And if they were able to make that upgrade in the offseason, I think we could go into next season viewing them as contenders.
Yeah, but my whole thing is, who are they going to get in free agents? That's like, no one wants to go over that.
No, I don't think it would be free agency. I think it would be a trade, given the amount of draft capital that they got in that Drew Holiday trade from the Bucks. I think they still have a couple picks from the Lakers lingering from that AD trade, and they have a bunch of young guys that don't really get that many minutes, like Dyson Daniels, and if they were to offload Jordan Hawkins as well, I think they could put together a package of young guys and talent and a large contract in CJ McCollum to maybe go after a guard that could be on the market, like Trae Young, Darius Garland are two names that come to mind, but that's just speculation from me.
No, yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's get into the next topic then. It's going to be the Warriors. And so Draymond's been having some antics on the court, and Clay's just been inconsistent in his shooting and his play. And I'm wondering if you guys think, I mean, regardless of whether or not they make the playoffs, do you guys think they should break it up? I know it's kind of making it weird on Curry because, you know, it's almost in this dynamic. He's probably got the ultimate say, but that's his boys. So, what do you guys think they should do? Let's start this one off with Ryan.
It's my surprise, you guys. Not sure, but I don't think they should be gung ho in terms of breaking anything up for a couple of reasons. Clay, I'm gonna start with Draymond since he's under contract for the next couple of years. Quote unquote breaking it up would entail trading away Draymond Green, and I don't really think you're getting anything of equal value when you trade Draymond Green for a couple reasons. Draymond Green doesn't hold the same value in the open market to the other 29 teams than he does to the Warriors because he fits so well in the system and he fits perfectly playing with Stephen Curry. For those two reasons, you're not going to match his value 1-for-1 or even 1 for a couple. I mean, you're not even going to get multiple assets for Draymond Green for those reasons. And then Clay is on an expiring contract. Breaking it up would entail just not re-signing him. And I don't think that's a smart move because he's not going to command a max contract. He doesn't have any leeway or leverage in terms of signing a max contract. And I think he still does have value if you're able to bring him back on a $18 million deal. I know he's been inconsistent, but he still is shooting a relatively high 3-point percentage on a high volume. So, I don't think it would be worth trading away Draymond and letting Klay Thompson walk for nothing.
Bryant?
I can see where Ryan's coming from, his viewpoint, but at the same time, the Warriors need to get under the luxury tax, and they have to make a decision whether or not they're going to keep Chris Paul. And even if they trade Chris Paul, they're going to still owe a lot of luxury tax, and that's one of the things they want to get under. I know, especially after this season, because they're way over it. And then with the Clay thing, I think you're gonna have to make a decision between Draymond and Clay. Now, like you said, Ryan, you can't really get much value for Draymond because he's not really. He can't, in my opinion, he doesn't fit anywhere else besides the Warriors. Like he can't do what he do besides on the Warriors. He can't. So, what I was thinking about, what if like the Warriors could trade Draymond with like the pair him up with like a Moses Moody or like a young player on their team and just maybe bait a team that's taking him. But they get a good young player because they do have a couple of young players on there. but I think they could maybe pair him up with a young player like Moses Moody or Kuminga. I know Kuminga is one of them they want to keep, so I would keep him, but I'd look at trading him with like Moses Moody or a draft pick or something like that. But besides that, I think they should break it up because like they, even with Draymond's antics and stuff, I just don't think it's wise enough. It's wise for them to keep him on that team anymore because everything he's caused, whether it's the pool incident, the stomping of Sabonis, the Minnesota ejection 2 or 3 years ago, these are all like telltale signs that he isn't going to change no matter what. And even when he was suspended for like 15 games, I think that was a big thing for them. And I think Joe Lacob was going to make a decision because I think he's tired of Draymond too. I think they should break it up. I don't. Clay's inconsistent, like I told you guys a couple episodes. I told you he wasn't going to stay consistent, and he's inconsistent. He isn't like one day he's high, one day he's low. I think yesterday he shot like 12. He had 12 points and like 3 for 8 from the field. So you ain't really getting much value from Clay anymore. He's not a good defender. Curry's doing everything he can. So I don't want to put all that pressure on Curry. So I would trade Draymond and Clay, to be honest, and just try to get like a decent, like a star. Like I know it's hard to get a star right now, but I know PG's I think he's a free agent next year. If I get rid of Draymond, Clay, and Chris Paul, and I have the opportunity to get PG and pair him up with Curry, I like that. You not telling me that wouldn't work? PG and Curry, I would like that. Those how that would look.
Can I interrupt?
But yeah.
So, because I have a question for you, because I tend to agree with you, Bryant. You bring up a star. I'm not sure if they'll be able to get a star, but I mean they need to do something with contracts, obviously. So they need someone of high value money wise. But do you think? I mean, Curry is doing it with less. I mean, he's got these 2 quote unquote stars, but he's doing it. Do you think he needs a star or just solid pieces around him?
Nah, I think he needs a star, kind of like LeBron, because
they're getting old.
Yeah, he's getting old. LeBron has AD.
Yeah,
he can rely on. They need like at least a star. That's why I mentioned AD.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about that, Ryan?
I just don't think you're able to trade for a star with Draymond as that piece and Moses Moody, who, I mean, he's 2 years in and we've seen signs, but we haven't seen a sustained period where you're like, yeah, that guy could be a top tier starting shooting guard. So if that's your trade package, Draymond Green and Moses Moody and a pick, I don't think you're getting anything in return that moves the needle for you. I like the idea of maybe adding enough cap space to get Paul George, but that's going to be impossible with Andrew Wiggins' contract on the books, and Curry makes $52 million. It goes up to $55 million next season. Andrew Wiggins makes $26 next season. I don't think they'll be able to trade Draymond, so that's already $100 million. And they have Chris Paul at 30. And now if you're able to get off the Chris Paul contract, then they might be able to have enough cap space, but it wouldn't be a max contract to sign anybody of the likes of Paul George. So them trading away Draymond Green and Moses Moody wouldn't be opening up a max slot, and they'd be opening up a slot to just sign a mid-level exception at that point.
Well, I'm viewing it like they're going to get rid of Chris Paul, though, because I'm pretty sure they're going to get rid of Chris Paul after this season. So I'm already under the assumption of Chris Paul's already off the team. And I know they're going to make a decision between Clay and Draymond. It's either going to be one of those. They're going to make a decision between.
Well, yeah, I didn't even. I'm telling you the math right now. Like just Stephen Curry, Wiggins, and Draymond, that's already $100 million, and they still have Kuminga, Moses Moody, Gary Payton's player option, that puts them at around 110. I didn't even throw Klay Thompson in there. I'm just assuming they let Klay Thompson walk. That already puts them at like around 110 million, which I don't think gives them enough of a window or enough space to sign a max level guy. I think they only have around 20 million in cap space, and that's a maybe.
Okay.
So I don't think a star the caliber of Paul George is on the table for them. So if that's not the case, then them not bringing back Klay Thompson doesn't really make sense to me because he's not getting a max contract. We're looking at Klay Thompson's year this season as it kind of being a disappointment because he's making $43 million, and he's not going to make that next season for the remainder of his career. He's not going to make that. He's looking at around $15 million per year max. So I think if he's making that, then, and you look at right now, if you look at his statistical output, and if he was making around 15 to 16 million, that's a hell of a bargain. Even if he is inconsistent, that's what Tim Hardaway Jr. is making, and he can sometimes be inconsistent, but the statistical output is still there. So I think that would be a reasonable return on investment if Klay Thompson was making around that salary. So that's kind of why I'm on the side of bringing everybody back, because I don't think there is a way for them to add a star caliber player.
Okay. Let's get into our next topic. It's going to be the Lakers, and they have been on quite a winning stretch lately. They're 10-5 in their last 15, and that's coming with 2 wins against Milwaukee, a win against Minnesota. They did lose to Denver in the beginning of the 15 games. But they're on a winning stretch, and this is going into the playoffs. They're playing good. How do you guys feel about them? Are they becoming contenders for you, or are they just going to make maybe a little noise? Where do you guys have them? Let's start off with Bryant.
I think, Joe, you have to ask me that question, whether, like, after if they make the play or not. Because I don't...
You still
I have
know.
this... What? Yes.
How? You don't...
I don't know. It's just, that's like, there's still a 9 seed with recent winning stretch. And who knows? I mean, whoever they play in the play on, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Phoenix or the Warriors. But I got to see how they look. I don't want to, like, say they... But so far, they're looking like... I'd say they don't look like title contenders, but they do look better than they looked like a couple weeks ago. They are threats if they make the playoffs, I think. But I know if they run into the Nuggets, I don't think they're going to win that matchup at all. But if they play Timberwolves or Thunder, I think they can easily beat that team. I think so. They can. They can probably get past the first round, but you know, I'm not really surprised. Low-key, I am kind of surprised by the surge because they had the same surge last year. So when they won that recent winning stretch after the trade, but I would say they are threats if they make the playoffs. Title contenders, that's kind of more iffy about, just because I'm not sure, you know, on how consistent AD is going to be in the playoffs, or you know, LeBron if he's going to get tired down the stretch. But overall, I mean, they're playing really great ball. You got D'Angelo, who's playing remarkable, Rui, Austin Reeves, and they're doing all this without Jerry Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent, who just came back like last game. So, I really like what they're doing, but we just gotta see until if they make the playoffs.
They only got like 6 games left, I think, now.
Yeah, I know.
So they've got to lose like all of them.
Yeah, I think they will make the play-in.
Yeah, I think
hopefully.
So too.
What about you, Ryan?
I'm surprised you're hesitant about this. I'm pretty adamant about this. They're not contenders. I don't really care about this stretch. I mean, yeah, it's a significant stretch and they're playing well, and it is good to hit this stride as you're going into the playoffs, but I don't think it's convincing me to say that they're contenders because of the teams that they've been beating up on. Their past, I don't know how many games this is, but they played Atlanta, Philly without Embiid, Indiana, who hasn't been the same since after the All-Star break. They beat Milwaukee. That was a good win. Then they played Memphis, bottom dweller in the West, lost to Indiana this time, beat Brooklyn, team in NBA purgatory, and then they just beat Toronto. Most of those teams are either sneaking into the play-in picture or they're a rebuilding team that's looking to add a top pick in the draft lottery. So I know they've had a past in terms of not being able to beat on the teams that they should be handling, not taking care of their food early on, but they're beating bad teams in my opinion, and they're taking advantage of a weaker strength of schedule going into the postseason. So for that reason, this stretch doesn't really move me one way or the other. And if they were to face the Nuggets in the first round, I think that's a 5-game series at maximum. I think they probably get swept. And even if they face the Timberwolves or OKC, Brian, do you think they could top them or they have a good chance of beating them? I kind of disagree there. I think OKC is way too deep of a team. And they're much younger, yeah, but this Lakers team is really old, and LeBron has been hinting at the fact that these 40-point outputs aren't as easy for them as they were in the past. So I think that's a sign that he's kind of running out of gas in the tank. So I probably would still take OKC and Minnesota to beat them in 5 or 6 games if they were to face them in the playoffs as well. So I don't really think that makes them contenders.
I'm not saying they contenders. I'm just saying they're threat. That's it. I'm not saying they're gonna make it to the finals and all that. And
I know that. I'm really responding to the fact that you said they could beat OKC and Minnesota easily.
Well, I would not easily, but I'd say they beat them in 6 just due to experience. I feel like I'm just going based off experience that LeBron has in AD and the patience LeBron has to slow down the game and get his teammates all where I'm coming from. Like that's why I'm just going with experience with LeBron, mainly LeBron.
I get where you're coming from, but this OKC team is too good to lose based off of experience as the sole factor in the first round to a 7 seed, 8 seed that's looked inconsistent throughout the year. Minnesota might be a bit more susceptible, yeah, but OKC not. I don't think they're fucking with OKC at all.
And then let's say they make the play-in. I've got one more kind of question for you guys. So if they're in the play-in, and let's say they're where they're at right now, right, and they got to either face Golden State or Houston, who do you think the Lakers would rather see? And we can go into this real short. Let's start with Bryant.
Oh, Houston. I mean, I don't think they're gonna make the play-in. To be honest, I think they're too far back. But I'd say Houston.
Okay, Brian.
What about you?
Yeah, Houston.
Okay, yeah, I think you would not want to see Curry in that 1-game situation either. Houston could be scary, maybe just because of they're young and quick. But all right, let's move on. Our last topic is going to be our next topic is going to be the Clippers. They've been struggling a little lately. Are they still contenders for you guys? Where do you guys have them? Does this struggle make a difference for you guys? Do you think they can get it together? Let's start with Ryan.
Yeah, they're still contenders, but I'm not as strong or adamant about them as compared to when we filmed the first episode, like the contender-pretender segment. Due to this, I think the struggles honestly have to do with players not being used to playing this amount of games. Like going into April, I feel like their legs are starting to get heavy, and I know a point of emphasis for Ty Lue was getting PG and Kawhi to bypass load management and play at least 80% of the season. And I'm not saying he was wrong for trying to emphasize that at all, but I'm just saying these guys haven't really done that in recent memory. So I think that's kind of taken a toll on them. The stretch of games that they missed Russell Westbrook, I feel like really took a toll on them because they were getting to this later part of the season and the Clippers were relying on Kawhi and PG a bit more, and they didn't have Russell Westbrook as that spark plug off the bench anymore. And I feel like James Harden is also kind of gassing out towards the end of the season. So I think they're kind of just trying to stumble their way into the postseason and just stay afloat and maybe have a second wind for that playoff run. But yeah, they're not one of the stronger contenders out west for me anymore.
I would Yeah, I would agree. I'd say I more strongly agree with it, to be honest. I think when Westbrook got injured, I think that kind of like took a toll on them with the energy because no one on that team is really like a leader. I think Westbrook's the closest thing to a leader. So I think them missing his leadership and his energy off the bench played a factor. I'm very concerned with James Harden. I mean, I think the past 3 games he's been averaging, I think, below 10 points in scoring. So that ain't really good. Um, I, hmm. I would still say that threats, title threats still, but I'm not as certain as I was the first episode. Kind of like when I was raving about them. But yeah, I'm mildly concerned, but nothing crazy yet. So hopefully they can get together and finish off the rest of the season strong.
Yep. Gotta stay healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into this is gonna be a longer kind of segment. Probably the next half of the video, but we're gonna dive into some of the teams outside of the playoffs that are eliminated. There's about 9 of them. And I just want to know who you think has the brightest futures out of all of them. But let's go ahead and let's get into the first team. And let's start with the Jazz, and let's start it off with you, Ryan.
For sure, yeah. The Jazz, they're in one of the weirder positions in the NBA, in my opinion. It's kind of what you call NBA purgatory, where you're not bad enough to have a guaranteed top 5 pick in the lottery, but you're not good enough to be viewed as a playoff lock, and for their case, they're not even good enough to be sniffing the play-in picture. So for that reason, whenever a team is in that position, I always have trepidations about them, and they also don't really have that guaranteed face of your franchise. I know Lauri Markkanen made the All-Star team last year, and he's having a damn good season this year, but is he really the guy that you're like, yeah, for sure, he's going to be the building block of our future as we go through this rebuild? He's going to be here for the long run, and we're going to build around him. Is he that guy? Not in my opinion. He's starting to not get older, but he's 26, and that's, if you're in the heart of a rebuild, you don't want your building block for the future to be 26 going into his late 20s. You want him to be closer to his early 20s for sure. And I don't think they have one of the better like young cores for the future. When you're looking at teams that aren't in the play-in picture in the playoffs at all, you kind of want to have a conglomerate of young talent that you're like, yeah, this conglomerate can grow together, and hopefully one of them develops into this face of our franchise. They don't really have that solidified marquee piece. So for that reason, I don't think they have too bright of a future compared to other teams. If I had to throw it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being brightest, 1 being bleakest, I'd give it a 4. And the only saving grace is the fact that they have all these draft picks from the Rudy Gobert trade and the Donovan Mitchell trade. So maybe in 2 or 3 years, a doomsday scenario arises for the Cavs in which Donovan Mitchell doesn't fuck with Cleveland anymore and he leaves in free agency, or Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert fall off a cliff or something, and Minnesota's draft pick is a lot more valuable, and they luck into a top 3 pick. They have those types of avenues to adding a marquee talent in a potential draft, but until they really bottom out and commit to the future, I'm going to say that they have a bleak future.
I tend to agree with Ryan. To me, I like their roster a lot more than Ryan does, I'm assuming. I like Colin Sexton, Clarkson, and Keontae George. I think Keontae George, even though he's been inconsistent this season, he has some great outputs in some games. So I really like what I've been seeing from him. Overall, I tend to agree with Ryan. I do think they don't really have a face of the franchise. As much as I like Colin Sexton, he's been playing amazing this season. I think career highs and everything. I I don't know if you can really build a franchise with him. But at the same time, I do tend to agree with Ryan. I think in 2 or 3 years, I mean, they might have to blow it up and market and is getting older, so you can't really like he's having a great year. But I mean, is he like the face of your franchise? Is he the guy who's gonna put like the team on his shoulders? I don't think so. But yeah, I'm pretty sure like they only have one of the greatest futures, or yeah, in the futures in the NBA. But yeah.
Okay. Let's get into our next team. It's going to be the Brooklyn Nets, and we'll go back to you, Brent.
Hell no, they are trash. They have no future. They have no face of the franchise. I know they tried building with Mikal Bridges. He's been dog crap this year. I mean, it's not even funny how bad he's been bad this year. But they have no future. That they have the picks from the KD trade and Kyrie, I think, but that's all they have right now. I don't see nothing they can do. Nothing. They are trash. They are one of the worst teams in the NBA. I know the record doesn't say it, the 11th seed, but they are horrible. And the only thing you can go based off is the picks they have right now, but not their roster's not that good. Kel Bridges' appointment this year, he took a step back compared to last year. Cam Thomas, he might be the best player on that team, and that's not really saying much because Ben Simmons he's always out with injury. Claxton, consistent. Cameron Johnson, who's been a disappointment this year too. This team has no leader. This team is not good at all. I don't really see a future with this team. It's going to take them at least a decade to rebuild, to be honest. Maybe.
Whoa, what?
What? I'm being honest.
Jesus Christ, a decade is insane.
10 years. I don't see no one coming to Brooklyn. Yeah, but...
All right. Can I hop in?
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree. Like they have a pretty bleak future. A lot of similar things to Utah. Like they have a lot of draft picks that they got, and after liquidating Kyrie, KD, and Harden over the past couple years, but they're also in a similar state where they're like the 11 seed or 12 seed or something. They're most likely going to have a pick towards the end of the lottery, and I don't view them as trending in the right direction. Mikal, I don't think Mikal has been dog shit, but he hasn't been. The reason why you're saying that, I believe, is because of the season that he had last year, and people were going into this season after he averaged like upwards of 25 a game for them when he got on to Brooklyn, and people were thinking that he could be this number one option on a competitive team, and I feel like a lot of that was just delusions of grandeur. I think it was fool's gold, and Mikal is best suited as a number 3 or maybe in some cases a number 2, just not the number 1 option that you're looking at to create your offense and initiate everything. Cam Thomas fits that mold a bit more because I think he has a bit more of a versatile shot creating bag. So I don't think Mikal has been completely horrible, but he just hasn't lived up to the unfair expectations that a lot of people had for him going into this season. Cam Thompson pretty much is their top tier building block for the future in terms of young talent that you're hoping to maybe build around. I don't think he can be the face of your franchise, but I think he can be a marquee piece on your team as you're kind of in this bridge scenario, and it's somebody that can provide a little hope for your future because he is only 22 years old. But other than that, yeah, the future is pretty bleak, and they also need to bottom out sooner rather than later so that they're not rebuilding for a decade. I think if they bottom out and they commit to a rebuild and they're kind of where the Pistons are and the Wizards are and like next season, then they'll have more chances to obtain like a top 5 lottery pick, and that's where you kind of find, or that's where you hope to find the future of your franchise, the future face of your franchise. But yeah, they kind of need to stop fooling themselves into thinking that they can contend for an Eastern Conference playoff spot. So pretty bleak future, similar to the Jazz.
Okay. We'll get into our next team. We're going to stay in the East. And actually, let's start with you, Ryan, on this one, because you've been doing a rebuild with this team for a while now. Let's do the Wizards, and I want to hear what you have to say about the Wizards first.
This is fun. Okay. I'd say compared to the Utah and Brooklyn, I think they have a much brighter future for when they are one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, so they're guaranteed to have a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft. And I don't think they have the face of their franchise yet, but I do like the pieces that they are building with for the future. Denny Avdia has had his best year of his career thus far in terms of efficiency, scoring inside and out. He doesn't shoot that many threes. That's not a staple of his game, but he is still shooting the 3 ball at the best rate of his career. And I think he's finally had the ball placed in his hands to be more of a decision maker, which has been the fault that I've had, or the criticism that I've had of the Wizards in the past with their development of Denny Avdia. They haven't put the ball in his hands as much to be this creator for them, and they've done it this year, and he is reaping the rewards for it. And defensively, this team is horrible, but Denny Avdia has been their best defender because of his versatility and willingness to defend the best perimeter player on any given night. And I think he's going to continue to get better. He's not really going to get his flowers around the league for it, but if you do find yourself ever watching a Washington Wizards game, do me a favor and just pay attention to Denny Avdia's defense, because he's one of the more underrated defenders in the league. Now, when they traded for Jordan Poole, they were hoping that he could be this guy to really be the catalyst for their offense, and due to his inconsistency, it doesn't really look like he's going to be that guy for them. But apart from that, I think they have some nice building blocks for the future with Denny Avdia and Bilal Coulibaly as well, who projects to be a really good 3-and-D versatile wing going forward. He's kind of a raw prospect that has to continue rounding out his game, but I think with more reps, he can do that for the Washington Wizards. I think in the future, they're going to look to trade Kyle Kuzma sooner rather than later. Maybe this offseason, maybe just before the trade deadline next season, but they can liquidate him for some future assets or maybe a young piece. But yeah, they don't have the face of their franchise for right now, but they could add that in this upcoming NBA draft or maybe the 2025 NBA draft. But because of the pieces of Denny Avdia and Bilal Coulibaly, I'd give it a 5 or 4.5 on a scale of 10 in terms of brightness.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add much to that because that's Ryan's. I don't really know much about the Wizards at this point. They do have a couple of bright spots, like Ryan said. I think Poole just had a bad year this year because I think this is like his first year by himself. So I think it was hard for him to lead a team. But I think he'll get better throughout the time. I think he can be a face of the team. I just think it's going to take him some time, maybe a couple of seasons. But I low-key like the fit with Washington. He has like his own team. He's been playing better recently coming off the bench too. So I really like that too. But yeah, I can't really add much. But I'd say I'd go with Poole as the leader of the team. Now, I want to say they're still looking for one. I think he can be. It's just going to take some time. And yeah.
Okay. And yeah, let's just shamelessly plug if you're not here from Ryan Bevans' channel IB, this podcast is on the channel that it's Ryan's channel, and so if you want to, Ryan does some real good My GM videos and just other videos, everything basketball. So if you're here just listening to the podcast, you happen to click on it, go ahead and check out his channel, and he does great content. But let's get into the next one. It's gonna be we're gonna go to the Portland Trailblazers. Let's start with Bryant on this one.
Well, I don't even know really what to do with this team. They don't have a leader. They don't have a face of a franchise player yet. I think Scoop, first half of the year, first half he was a disappointment, but the second half he picked it up. Aiden's been inconsistent, but recently he's been playing great in a couple. I think they have a lot of building blocks they can go off of. I mean, they have Scoot Henderson, Aiden, Simon, and some couple good role players on them. I think in the future though they should trade Grant because I think his contract is atrocious, and he is the way this team is. They don't need older players; they need to build around young people. I don't think he's gonna really contribute too much. He isn't really like a leader, and I don't really see his impact on the game that much as I would like to. But overall, they have a couple good building pieces. If I had to rank them on a 1 to 10 scale, I'll give them like a 5 or 6. I think they have a decent coach in Chauncey Billups. He still has a couple things to learn. I don't know if I would fire him and try to get a more experienced coach in there. But I mean, so with what he has, I mean, doing the best he can, so I can't really put the much blame on him. But I mean, overall, they have a couple good building pieces they can build around with the Scoot Henderson, who's been playing better recently. But overall, I'd say this team has a better future than a couple of teams you mentioned, Joe. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, 6.5. Scoot Henderson hasn't really had the rookie year that we would have liked, but that's kind of the case for a lot of young point guards. It can't all be Ja Morant having a great rookie season for a point guard. Oftentimes, it is a steep learning curve in adjusting to reading NBA defenses, and Scoot Henderson is athletic as hell, but there's no longer this significant of a athleticism discrepancy between his opponents. So I think he's had to adjust to that, and he's got to fine tune his jump shot over the offseason because that's only going to unlock more space for him and bring more attention to him on the perimeter for him to get inside and finish inside and draw the attention of the defense inside the paint for kickouts and three-point opportunities for him to spot on the perimeter, which is kind of his forte and bread and butter. Even though he hasn't had the best rookie season, I think he still does have a high ceiling, and if he can develop adequately, I think he can be somebody that you build around, but we kind of just have to be patient with him. And Shaedon Sharpe, I was really looking forward to him having a season of like 70 to 80 games of him just being a bucket, and that's kind of been taken away from us because of significant injuries. I think he has a high ceiling as an offensive shot creator. And Anthony Simon's kind of a similar thing to Shaedon Sharpe, this inside-out athletic threat on the wing. So they have 3 really good pieces on the perimeter that can continue to grow and build together. And DeAndre Ayton, he's been better as of late, but not really a building block for your future. Jeremy Grant, I'm sorry, Bryant, but that contract's going to be untradeable, bro. I think he's a Blazer for life, man. That contract is atrocious. He's a Blazer for life. But I think they stand to have a top 5 pick, and maybe they can hit on it with Matas Buzelis, Alexander Sarr, somebody in the front court for sure to kind of coexist with their perimeter trio. So yeah, I'd give them a 6 out of 10 in terms of brightness for the future.
Okay. All right, let's get in our next team. It's going to be the Detroit Pistons. Let's start it off with Bryant.
I like this team a lot. When me and Ryan first started doing the podcast, I had them. I think I had them like in the 10th seed or something like that. I remember, and I failed miserably. That's a different story. But yeah, they have a lot of great pieces. I really like this team a lot, even though they're the worst team in the league, which they shouldn't be, to be honest. But that's ridiculous. But I really like Kate Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren too. He's a monster in the paint. I really like this team. I think the future is bright for them. Even though I don't know if they have any roster picks, Ryan. So I don't know yet. But I really like this team. They have I like Cunningham, Duren. Wiseman, I think they just want to keep him on the team just to keep him. I don't really think you can trade anything for him, but hopefully just build around him. If anything, I put the struggles on the Pistons on Monty Williams, to be honest. I want to put him on the players. I put him on Monty Williams. I don't really. I think he a little overrated contract he got, But I guess that's what you get for being a great coach for the Suns for a couple of seasons. But yeah, I like the team a lot. I really think they have a great front court and a great center too in Duran. So I really like the future with this team. I'll go with the higher ceiling than the previous team we did before. I'll go with the 7 on this team. I really like this team, and I don't think they'll make it to the playoffs next year, sadly. But hopefully they can go further and have a better record. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think 7 is accurate here because of Cade Cunningham. They actually, in comparison to the teams that we've mentioned to this point, they actually have somebody who is the face of the franchise and has the keys to the team. And I'm comfortable in saying Cade can be that for them. And they have a bunch of other talents that are, like, individually, I think they have higher ceilings to hit as well with Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson. He's probably going to make all-rookie first team. He's definitely going to make all-rookie second team at least, but he projects to be one of the best defenders in the league sooner rather than later, man. His defensive impact is tremendous. Now he does have to round out his offensive game and become more of a reliable corner three-point shooter at the very least, but defensively, the sky's the limit for that man. I'm really high on Asar Thompson, and I actually really agree with Bryant in terms of allocation of blame. Players always do hold a little bit of blame, but man, Monty Williams, I think he shoulders the most blame here, given the amount of money they invested into him in the past offseason. His decision making in terms of starting Killian Hayes over Jaden Ivey for so long, I did not understand that at all, and now they waived him. Yeah, I think he really sold the bag there, and he might have lost the trust of Ivy for the future, but I don't know. That situation wasn't handled very well, and this entire situation with the Pistons hasn't really been handled well by Monty in his first year, but it only has been his first year, so we can't really judge him too much for that. But yeah, he shoulders a lot of blame here because he has a lot of young talent on this team. They should not be this bad. With that being said, though, I think they can bounce back next season and maybe flirt with a play-in tournament spot. So yeah, I'd give them a strong 7.
All right, let's get into our next team. Let's go to Wemby over in San Antonio. How you guys feel about that? Let's start off with Ryan.
10. I don't have to say much. They have a generational talent. 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say much either. Fucking 10, dude.
Right, let's move on, dude. Come on. All right, Charlotte. Let's go back to Ryan.
But just for content purposes, I think they have a chance to really expedite their rebuild, given the amount of draft picks they have. If they wanted to trade for like an all-star caliber player, mainly a point guard, if they wanted to do that this offseason, just sooner rather than later, then they have that availability. So for that reason also, I think there are a 10. But yeah. What team did you mention, Joe?
Next, Charlotte.
Charlotte. Oh, okay. Man, this is a tough one to gauge because they have the talent for sure. In place right now, they have kind of the perfect ascending 3 that you want to build around, like your star caliber point guard, who's your face of your franchise now, and LaMelo, who can score at all 3 levels and facilitate at one of the best levels in the league. They have a shot creating wing in Brandon Miller, who honestly, he's having a rookie of the year caliber season if it weren't for Chet and Wemby, those damn 7'1" demigods. Brandon Miller he's been really good. He's been really impressive. I think they made the right pick there. There's a lot of discourse with them drafting him or Scoot Henderson because at the time, Scoot Henderson was the better prospect, but people were saying should they draft for best player available or for better fit, because you wouldn't want to have Scoot next to LaMelo. They opted for fit, and in reality, they got the better player as it stands right now in Brandon Miller. I really like his future in building with him next to LaMelo as that number 2 option, and Mark Williams is a very, very solid rim running center who's going to rebound at a high level and defend the paint. Honestly, it's going to come down to the health of LaMelo Ball per season. Like, if he can play more than 60 games in a season, I don't think he's done it since his rookie year, man. That's going to be the main thing that determines their season success when you start going into these post rookie contract years of LaMelo Ball. And I think Brandon Miller is going to get better, and I think he's going to ascend to a 20-point per game player sooner than a lot of people think. So when healthy, I think this Hornets team can be a lot better, or better a lot sooner than people think. So I'm going to give them a 7.5, pushing 8. Just really hoping for a healthy season for LaMelo.
I think you're smoking something. The only bright spot on that team is Brandon Miller. I'm done with LaMelo Ball. They need to trade him. Sorry. Fucking Mitch Kupchak's a dumbass for giving them that contract. Fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry. LaMelo Ball, dude, he's overhyped. I don't even like him as a point guard. I mean,
oh my god.
I'm sorry, dude. I don't know what you mean. I understand the passing and the scoring. He can get to his spot. But dude, for me, I'd rather have someone that's reliable. Dude is not reliable. What's up?
Is it his shooting splits? What is it?
He shoots decent, and he gets that's not the thing though. He's a liability on the can't really guard anyone. He doesn't take the game serious too. When I watch him play, he plays goofy. Like he gets his points and numbers and all that, but he plays goofy. I don't like the way he plays. He's only played 22 games this year. I think he's going to be out for the whole season, and he only played 36 last year. Like, that's a telltale sign to me that this dude's injury prone, and I can't rely on him for being the face of my franchise. I like Brandon Miller. What Ryan said, he's a great player. If it wasn't for Wemby, he would have been Rookie of the Year, no doubt. But I'd rather build around Brandon Miller and just maybe trade LaMelo. I don't think you can because that contract's so atrocious to me. It's like 5 years, $260 million, something like that. But that's like way too much money. I would have waited if I was Mitch Kupchak. I could have got this guy on a discount. But yeah, I don't. This team has a good future just because of Brandon Miller. But besides everyone else, you can discount them. Oh, nah.
Damn, I did not think you viewed LaMelo Ball that poorly. Just because the man has had injury. Well, I guess you said you don't like his play style for some reason, but
yeah, it's reckless when you look at it.
Okay, I mean, reckless doesn't equate to not being a good player. Like, if you look at Stephen Curry, I'm not saying LaMelo Ball is on Stephen Curry's trajectory, but Stephen Curry still plays reckless. And if you look at young Stephen Curry, he played reckless as shit. He was trying a lot of shit that Mark Jackson at the time and early on Steve Kerr, they were second guessing, like, why is my point guard attempting these risky ass passes and not prioritizing ball security and time of possession. But and he also had injury concerns early in his career as well. So there's a lot of parallels between LaMelo and Stephen Curry earlier on in the year. I understand the contract is hefty, but that's just a product of the modern NBA. When you have a young player that has played very well throughout the entirety of their rookie contract, that rookie extension is guaranteed. And LaMelo Ball has had some injury concerns earlier on in his career, but the output was always there and the potential was always there. So you're gonna pay that player for that potential. That's just reality. I think every GM would have made that decision. Now, hindsight, you don't want to give him that contract because as of this most recent season, the injuries have piled on, but that's hindsight. I don't think you can harp on Mitch Kupchak for giving him that extension because every rookie was getting that extension at the time. Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, and LaMelo Ball was, at the time, he was at the same tier as those players. He was looked at as better than Tyrese Halliburton by far because Halliburton wasn't having the output that he has had this season. So yeah. I don't really think you can harp on Mitch Kupchak too much for that contract, but me personally, I'm still high on LaMelo Ball. I think he's just had a lot of his seasons taken away from injury, and I'm hoping he's not injury prone, and I'm hoping that he can just obtain some durability, because we've seen players that have been injury prone in their first 4 or 5 years kind of bounce back and be able to play 60 to 70 plus games on a consistent basis. So I'm not writing him out just yet.
No, I'm writing him off. I want him off my team if I was the Hornets fan.
Wait. What are you trading him for?
Oh no! Well, I mean, I had to train for at least. I know I'm not gonna get. I'm hoping to get at least a star or something. If I can't get a star, then I'll take a couple good players and build around Brandon Miller. Maybe some draft.
So you want you? Okay, I don't really understand the point of that. Like you're acting like LaMelo's just a scrub. That's just a hindrance on your team.
He's not no scrub. I like Brandon Miller more than LaMelo. Like his game is more smoother. I feel like he has more skill than LaMelo too.
Yeah, that's fine, but I think you're acting like they play the same exact position. They like LaMelo is a lead guard and Brandon Miller is a wing. That's kind of the dream scenario for you. It's that when you're trying to pair players, in my opinion.
Yeah, but you can't rely on LaMelo. I've seen enough. I can't rely on him to be healthy for 1 year. He, like you said, he only played 6
years. Enough. The man is only 22 years old.
I trust me, right?
I think we move on. We move on to the next one. Let's get into our next team. We'll do.
Hating on Lightskins is crazy. When the name of the podcast is the Lightskins.
Oh,
you turncoat.
Let's move on to the Raptors. Let's start off with Bryant.
So that's funny. No, I think they have a decent roster. I like the team a lot. They have a good coach. But yeah, I mean, can't really say much about this team. I think they're just going to be the future is what it is. I mean, they have RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes. I mean, you have a great player to build around Barnes. So I'd say this team's potential is like a 6 or a 7, but it's nothing crazy to rave about. I think next year they probably should make make the play in this year. You know, some things came on with Scotty Barnes injured, and then RJ Barrett when he missing time due to the passing of a family member. But I'd say this team's future is like a 6 or a 7. There's nothing really much to rave about. I mean, there's not really a face of the franchise. I mean, Scotty Barnes is it, but we gotta see how he comes back from next year from this injury. But yeah, I don't think they have like a lot of building pieces though. But I'm going based off Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. That's a good duo right there. And you got Quickly as a guard at your back as your front court. So it's not a bad team. They just need to figure some things out. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, 6.5. I really like Scotty Barnes. He's kind of like your do-it-all player. I'm pretty sure he leads them in every statistical category, like team-wise, like points, rebounds, assists, all the traditional stats. I'm pretty sure he leads the team in every one of those, which not very many players are doing. So because of Scotty Barnes, I think he can be the face of the franchise, and I think he still has room to grow. I think he can ascend to like a 23, 24 point per game type of player. So yeah, I think he still has a ceiling to hit, and I think he can be the building block for your future, the face of your franchise. RJ Barrett is a nice piece. I think he needed a change of scenery out of New York because New York fans, they wavered from game to game, from season to season on how they felt about RJ Barrett, and I feel like that can take its toll on a young player. So kind of having a change of scenery, going back to his home country in Canada, I think that's good for him, and I'm really excited to see what they can do in a full season together. But outside of that, there's a lot that is left to be desired. So probably leaning towards like 6.5, in my opinion.
Okay. So we have one more team to go into. It's going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll start off with Ryan and with Brent. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, man. I honestly forgot the Memphis Grizzlies are even in this tier, because when you look at their team, they shouldn't be in this tier because of the amount of win-now talent that they have. Just, health and suspensions and whatnot have hindered them. They're going to be going in the next season with hopefully a 100% Ja Morant. Desmond Bane and Triple J, and they're gonna have like a top 5 pick in this draft when they already have what should be a contending team. Like last year, they were the 2 seed at full health, and depending on what they do with the pick, if they want to kind of parlay that into trading for a all-star caliber player at probably either the center position or small forward position, then that could be a reasonable avenue for them. Or if they luck into a top 3 pick and they'd want to draft an Alexander Sarr that could maybe play next to Jaren Jackson Jr. or not really sure. I got to read more into the NBA draft, the prospects this year, but I think they're in a really good position, very fortunate position. So I'd say 8 or 9, because at the end of the day, they got Joe Morant, who's definitively a face of your franchise, and for oftentimes he was looked at as a budding face of the league. So for that reason, yeah, 9 probably.
I'd go with like 9 or 8. I think the reason why they struggled is mainly Joe Morant, and Jaren Jackson was out due to some injury. But yeah, this team, like Ryan said, was the 2nd seed or 1st seed last year, and I think they low key trade the pick because I'm trying to win now. If I was them, I would try to find like a shooting guard or like a small forward or something, maybe even a point guard, so I have someone backing up Ja, because I think Derrick Rose will probably be gone by next year. But overall, this team is going to be. They should be good with a healthy Ja next year. I see them as like a 5th to 4th seed. But yeah, I have high expectations for this team next year.
Ooh, I got a
What?
prospect. I got a prospect, or not a draft prospect, but a trade prospect. We talked about this player in this segment, Mikal Bridges. What if the Nets are looking to tear it down and embrace a rebuild? Mikal Bridges is really their most valuable player, and he's really valuable to contending teams because at his best role is being like that third option, not somebody who's relied upon for offense, but being a third option, consistent catch and shoot scorer, can put the ball on the floor at times when you need him to, but mainly that wing defender. If the Grizzlies get like the 4th or 5th pick in the draft, maybe you pair that up with one of their heftier contracts, like outside of Ja, Bane, and Triple J. If they're able to, if Mikal Bridges was on the table, would you go after that?
Hell no, I don't want Mikal Bridges. He can stay
Oh my God, bro!
He can stay as that's
You're hating on him so much. He's just not in a role that he's best suited for, and he actually has not had that horrible of a season. It's just expectations.
I'd trade the pick, some players from the Grizzlies to get DeJounte Murray. That's who makes sense to me. DeJounte. They can do it. He was in the trade.
I don't know about DeJounte. You want to play DeJounte next to Ja? Yes. DeJounte's been hooping his mind off because he hasn't had to play next to Trey. He's been the main ball handler and the decision maker. You're going to throw him back into the same situation if you put him next to Ja.
You can take off some stress off Ja. And Ja.
But, I mean, you're not going to get the same DeJounte, is what I'm saying. Like, the DeJounte that we're seeing now, you're not going to get that if you put him next to Ja. And both of them niggas, you're not really having a shooter per se. That's why I like Bane in the backcourt next to Ja, because Bane is a shooter. He's a gunner, a very efficient shooter on high volume.
Okay.
So I don't know about DeJounte. That's why I was looking more for like a small forward.
Makes sense.
Okay, I think we can wrap it up there. I think we did a pretty good episode. Thanks for listening. You guys listen to Lightskins Podcast. Please subscribe, leave a like. Yeah, that was a great episode. We plan on doing, not sure if it'll be up, but even if it's a little late, we plan on doing a postseason predictions episode, something like that, somewhere along those lines. So either that will be tacked onto the next podcast, or we might have a deep dive kind of episode. Like I said earlier, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty of basketball content. Ryan Bevans does. But yeah, I think we could wrap it up there. Thanks guys for doing the podcast. Let's call it.
All right. Thank you for hosting, Joe. Thank you for the plug. and have a good one.
Peace.
Peace.